This morning you sent me, Jesus, some articles, videos of abuse against African American people. And you do this once in a while, and you and I are friends. And when you see this kind of abuse, what do you feel? You're a successful Black man. What goes through you? What's inside of you when you see this?
It's a little hard to describe, obviously. You're going to feel bad or the situation, the person, you feel anger, but then you got to dig deeper, a little deeper to kind of see what really the situation is. So yeah, I mean, you know it happens. You see things like that. At the same time, you cannot just go by what you see, and you kind of have to find out what really happened, because there's a lot of prejudice, there's a lot of biases and things that happen in this country, but there's also a lot of agendas that people have, and they use those situations to portray the picture. So it's like a mixed feeling.
Do you personally feel fear when you're like approached by a police officer or?
Oh, for sure. Any Black person will feel fear. That's for sure.
Can you describe what that is?
It's just knowing you Black. It's pretty much, you got to be careful with your movement, how to act, what type of response you're going to give. And if you feel that something is wrong and you're going to ask a question, you kind of have to think how you're going to structure that question. You see other groups that if they have questions when the cops stop, they just have what comes to their mind, the question they just ask it, that question. But if you dark skin, brown, Black person, you kind of have to say, let me see how I talk to this guy so that he don't escalate. Because the truth is they escalate every situation when he's a Black person. Not every, but it's a common thing for police officers to escalate situations.
Now you're originally from Panama, right?
Yeah.
Do Black people in Panama go through this?
It's different. I mean, I can't speak to all Latin America, but I know there is some type of racism in Panama. It's just different. I was talking to somebody about this the other day. It's not, racism is racism. I just think you and DR, so you tell me if you say something different. But in Panama, they say, oh, el negro es el moreno. Oh, negro feo, People,
it's como de cariño. It's almost like endearment,
Yeah, and it's normal. And even if you're fighting with somebody, they might say an insult, como, oh, bembón, tan feo. But I think it's not a hatred towards a group or a person. And yes, systematically in Panama, I could talk about Panama, not the other country. But obviously, the people you see in the news is usually light-skinned people, or white people. The people that sit in this position in Congress usually will be 90% white. I mean, the whole country, I think Guatemala, any of these countries in Latin America will be the same. So there is a systematic racism, but as far as like hatred by seeing somebody that you don't know based on the color of skin, I don't see that in any other country. So.
Yeah, I see it in the DR. In fact, we're in political season right now, right? Mm-hmm. And we were driving the other day, and I said to my wife and daughter, I said, look at all the political signs and tell me what you see and tell me what you don't see, right? And what you see is mostly light-skinned Dominicans running for office, but the reality in the Dominican is most people are dark-skinned, but I want to get back to that feeling of this is what I want for me to continue to understand, but for other people to understand. And that is that feeling of, if you get stopped, like, where's this going to go? It's like pins and needles, right? It's like walking on eggs. I mean, that's what I heard you. I don't want to put words in your mouth because you and I are good friends. But if you're trying to think in terms of how do I handle this conversation so I stay out of trouble, that's pins and needles. That's walking on eggs.
It's just that it could take a wrong turn real quick. And you know what? The funny part is that most encounter, like, obviously you get stopped, or you start thinking, oh, preparing yourself. Most of the time, the police officer come, hey, you got license and registration, how you doing, whatever. Yeah, what's up, was I going too fast? Sometimes it's just a warning, it's a cordial conversation. A lot of times it's that, most of the time it's that. But before you get to that and know who you're dealing with, the person in front of you to see is a normal person that's just, doing his job, you already have to mentally prepare, get a frame of mind, how you're going to talk. You know what? I'll tell you personally what I do. And I think it helps me maybe get out of a few tickets or whatever. I mean, I'm talking about speeding. I don't really do traffic violations.
Right.
But as soon as I get pulled over by a cop, the first thing I do is lower all 4 windows, lower the radio if I'm listening to music. I mean, if it's a nighttime, make sure I put all my lights on. And before it even comes, I try to get the registration, the insurance, and the license, and kind of have it in front of me. That way I don't have to reach for anything. And when he asks, it's right there. And
so you've actually gone through this whole process of just...
Yeah, I'll take it upon myself to actually, speak to him professionally. How you doing, officer? What's the reason for the stop? And I go like that. Usually, I mean, I will have to say 99.9% of the fine, it goes fine. But, there's that one occasion that could actually end your life. So you have to take it seriously.
I can't imagine, man. I think I shared this with you. I got stopped one time at night in Phoenix, going back up to, we lived in the Phoenix area, but out in the suburbs. And of course there it's the Mexicans, right? And my last name is Gonzalez. What are these people going to do to me? Right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't because of the color of my skin. Obviously it was my last name. And they kept me there about an hour, just questioning back and forth and making me walk the line and all that stuff. Finally released me, but it was scary. Mm-hmm. And I can't imagine what Black people go through.
The discipline that is required at the end of the day, it depends on the belief of a lot of people. I know a lot of people are, how can I say, I don't want to call them followers, but a lot of people are very obedient, very, whatever a person, if I told you to tell me, I just do, I don't question things. I personally not like that. I question anything. Having a uniform and a badge doesn't grant you special rights, so doesn't put you in a godlike position. So anybody I'm going to see as equal as me. And if you get one of these situations where obviously it's a police officer that either racist or have an agenda or feel that, you have no right, it's kind of hard to control yourself. It's kind of hard to just have the discipline to be like, you know what, this can only go negative from, they can only go in the wrong way, and I'm going to be the one having the short end of the stick. So let me kind of maneuver in the situation. For somebody that's a freedom lover, a person like me, that's kind of difficult, but you have to do it. You have to think of the consequences, the long term, or either you right in that moment, or you think about, let me let it go. If you have to handle, put a complaint or whatever, then take that route. But it is difficult to make that decision, though.
That's great advice. You've given 2 pockets of great advice. One is just the way you prepare yourself, like if you do get stopped. I mean, you already know what you're going to do if you get stopped. Putting the windows down, getting everything ready so you're not reaching for things, that you're actually trying to diffuse it before it even happens.
Just being proactive, man.
And then you're talking about just the mental and emotional discipline, the emotional intelligence of. But you said something really important, Jesus, and that is, if you need to file a complaint, do it on the backside, because in that moment, it's your life at stake, right? It's your family, it's your future. And it's easy to focus on what that other person may do rather than focus on what we need to do in that moment, right? And that takes a good deal of emotional intelligence and discipline, like you said.
You have to.
It's tough, man.
One thing I recommend is a dash cam. Everybody should be, and today's, with the knowledge that we have today, everybody should have in their car a dash cam. I mean, forget encounters with police. You just get into a fender bender. You want to make sure you have that video to show what really happened. Because now, the society we live, people like suing and things like that. So you want to have that.
Yeah. Man, what you've got to say is good for a lot of people to hear. And every time we talk, I gain a greater admiration for you.
The same. Likewise, man.